Well, thanks for being here. I'm grateful for an opportunity to share a little bit about a dream that we've had for a couple of years, and we've talked for a long time about launching a leadership development process in light of a lot of different factors of just helping to create the opportunity for leadership development, intentional growth with a lot of our church plants in our within our network and even outside of our network. But one of the things that as we discerned kind of how to best do this, I was introduced when we moved up to northern Colorado to plant a church to a small network of churches around here that did what they called pastor leadership training, where a lot of potential leaders from several of these different churches would all gather together once a month and do corporate training together as they walked through about a year to 2 years of curriculum to develop from within. And then, like, certain lead pastors from all the different churches would cover different topics as they walked through intentional leadership training. And so there was the local investment from their pastor at the local level, but there was this corporate nature to how they would grow and develop together. And so, as we kicked around the need for creating something like this, obviously, just the whole conversation about how do we go about doing something like this was at the forefront of that conversation. And so what we came up with and what we're talking about today as the Nexus Leadership Institute is something very similar, but at as a corporate level at a virtual just being able to offer this virtually for any church at any part of the country, whether they're a part of the official Nexus people or, network or any one of our partner networks that we could be a part of to serve. And so the Nexus Leadership Institute exists to equip leaders for a lifetime of ministry. And so we're going to walk through what this actually looks like at a number of different levels. So it's an option or an opportunity to intentionally mentor, train, and equip emerging leaders, but also for emerging church leaders as they are developing their own processes. And we'll get to some of that as well. So whether it's residency or some kind of an internship or something in that nature as we walk through some of this stuff. So why do churches often need this type of stuff? These are not exhaustive bullets of some of the things that we do, but just really some of the driving values behind some of this of, despite endless amounts of resources in today's churches, like, intentional leadership development is not the normative in most churches, where there isn't an intentional plan for being able to develop those in people's care. And so that's one primary reason. Another one is that we believe that the bulk of future church leaders, and in particular church planters, is going to come up from within our congregations, not just from our Christian colleges. We also believe that leaders are our legacy. It's one of the driving values of Nexus, and we walk that and trying to instill that into every church leader that we partner with. And then lastly, we are better together, and we can and learn a lot from each other. And so this idea of collaborative learning is critical, where it's not just happening asynchronously and just from one single pastor, that there is a corporate nature to what this looks like. And so for what we're developing here, the Leadership Institute is not necessarily only geared towards people that are interested in potentially planting a church. This is an opportunity to help instill that leadership development culture within our churches. And so with that in mind, any, like, college or graduate student that might be interested in ministry could be a part of this. Individuals sensing God's calling to even vocational ministry or bivocational ministry could be a part of this. Current church leaders, even like support staff, could be interested, that if they're interested in church planting or just interested in leadership growth, to be a part of this. Also, current church leaders who desire to grow in their character and competencies as ministry leaders can be a part of all of this stuff. All God's people are called and used by God to advance the gospel. And so we want to really help them accelerate as spiritual leaders within ministry. So this could be for anyone in any ministry, men or women. Oh, I think I just skipped to the end right there. Sorry. Um, Men or women that are looking for just intentional development and growth. Somebody that feels God's call into ministry. So the overall process kind of looks like this. It's a 2-year journey that would start, and it would be, and we'll get to curriculum here in just a second, but it would be a rotating curriculum so that you could start in any given year. It wouldn't be just start here, you go the full 2 years, and then we're going to launch a new group. So every single year we're going to be launching new groups. But the idea is that it's a 2-year journey delivered in at the local level in partnership with Nexus through these primary environments. That there would be the local investment where church leaders or mentors, so it could be men or women in any given ministry area, as potential leaders meeting with a pastor or mentor in their area, that they would intentionally meet with them a couple of times a month for intentional growth and development, giving them opportunities at the local level to grow and to minister. And so that would be empowered by Nexus, but all at the local level. The virtual aspect of it was is this something that Nexus would facilitate. So one time a month, typically the last week of the month, and starting in March, we're hoping to launch this. And so leaders will collaborate in a monthly cohort with leaders around the country as we partner together to equip and train leaders. So we're going to get into the curriculum, like I said, in a second, but that's the local level, the group cohort level for participants only. It's not the pastors and mentors that are a part of this. It would be for the participants. But then we would also bring in potential, or like some of those pastors and mentors from the local level, to be able to deliver some experience and content based on whatever it is that we're talking about. So these would, everybody participating would hear from a number of different voices all throughout these 2 years. And then lastly, we're curating online coursework via like books, online courses and videos, podcasts, articles, all sorts of different things, to be able to hone in on certain key topics that we've identified to really dig deeper throughout our time apart from one another. So we have that once a month call, but then at the local level and then personally, they're walking through a lot of development in what that looks like. So what participants learn, this is the primary curriculum that we're looking at. So in year one, we're going to be looking at spiritual formation, looking at some spiritual practices and disciplines, and Phil's going to talk a lot about that, as well as just servant leadership and general leadership skills, utilizing a lot of familiar tools like the leadership pipeline is kind of like an overarching kind of guideline for some of this stuff. Just learning how to lead yourself, learning how to lead others, learning how to lead leaders, learning how to lead the church, and a lot of different aspects of what that looks like. So developing leaders, vision casting, team leadership, self-awareness, all of what that looks like. So this is going to be covered in year one. We're going to alternate months. So in March, we're going to start with servant leadership, and then April we'll bounce to spiritual formation and kind of go back and forth as we progress through the rest of 2024. And then in 2025, we're going to launch into more of a theological training and practical ministry training through just disciple making with proven movement tools and gospel-centered disciple making. A lot of the things that we've learned from the Bonhoeffer Project, from movements around the world, and different trainings that we've received to be able to deliver reproducible disciple making techniques to every leader that is going to be a part of our stuff. And then the last thing, which is really interesting for us, is that we're in conversations as we think about just developing theology and just core theological principles like biblical overview, independent Christian church kind of markers, and what we kind of lean towards and believe in, and then also possibly hitting some cultural issues and apologetics along that same lines. But we're in conversations with a couple of different opportunities that we have to be able to offer like some kind of accredited certificate that might go along with this portion of our training. And so we have a couple of those conversations on the horizon. Can't really say anything yet in that regard, but we're really excited about the possibility of that. So year one, servant leadership and spiritual formation. Year two is all about biblical foundations and disciple making. The role of the pastor and mentor is one of the things that we get a lot of questions about. So basically, it's going to be an assisted structure, very loosely based, so that pastors and leaders at the local level have the freedom to do anything they want to in regards to the development of their leadership process. But they will meet with each participant. Some pastors we've already talked to have like maybe one or two or even three people that might be interested in going through the Leadership Institute, but they would meet individually or as a group with them 2 to 3 times a month to discuss, how they're leading, what they're learning, how they're growing, to give them opportunities to lead in different aspects, to give them different leadership challenges, as they walk through just different experiences on the ground in practical ministry. And then lastly, it was really to hold participants accountable to their plans for growth, helping participants, create and stay accountable to whatever growth plans that they come up with. And then also speaking into those, like just saying like, because we're not going to give a ton of homework based on our cohort. We're not going to have a whole library of books that they have to read. We're just going to do some very minimal things. But then at the local level, we're expecting just local pastors and leaders to really influence this portion of their growth based on a couple of different things, just their own passions and desires and culture, what they want them to be reading or learning about, but then also whatever type of ministry that they're involved in, whether it's worship ministry, children's ministry, young adult ministry, whatever that looks like, something specific to their growth in that regard. So there's some overarching generic structure, but then when it gets down to the specifics, we want it to be highly unique for every participant in their environment. So we want to encourage for church leaders an intentional rhythm of leadership development for them and for those that they're leading. So NLI can easily become the starting point or enhance their own local residency or internship process. So a lot of our churches don't have something like this for any number of reasons, whether they don't have the time or energy or staffing or resources to invest in this type of thing. But we want to be able to offer the Leadership Institute to come alongside them to maybe help them start that, and that the whole weight of it wouldn't be on their shoulders. But then also for churches that are already moving in this direction or already have something established, we want to just to be able to come alongside and enhance what's already existing and already in place, just to get that corporate leadership conversation going as well. And so that they're not just growing just from that single culture, but they're just learning from a lot of different leaders all around the country. So that's kind of our heart and desire for what that looks like. And then the investment for this is what we're hoping for is that the cost per participant in the Nexus Leadership Institute, the 2 year would be $500 a year. And there's some hard costs in that. We really want to be able to offer some high value with some profound like leadership assessments or personality profiling or different things like that for self-awareness and also just team understanding for all of that. So there's just a hard cost for some of those things. And then also just if we want to do some print materials, and then obviously we want to do a free t-shirt. Everybody loves a free t-shirt. So those free t-shirts that you pay for, right? So that's our hope, is that it'd be $500 a year per person per year. And so if anybody wants to learn a lot more about this, I want to share a couple other things as we're looking through some of the development of this. But Nexus.us/Leadership Institute, we're going to look at that in just a second. But back on the growth plan piece, we've kind of developed it's just some simple tools for pastors and leaders to be able to use. So this would be the growth plan for whoever's kind of going through this, identifying what Mac Lake talks about as focused learning rather than dispersed learning. So many times we dive into so many different topics all at once. We're reading a book on philosophy, and then we're listening to a podcast on theology, or we're watching videos on cultural apologetics. And I mean, there's just so many different areas in which we can grow, and we're just trying to do all of it at once. What Mac Lake kind of talked to us about is just really helping us to get more focused on our learning. Not to say that you can't just go off on a tangent every once in a while, but for the bulk of a given month or 2 months, to just really dig deep and just try and learn and more or less like blitz a topic and just say, if you want to learn how to execute for results, or if you want to learn how to be a visionary leader, if you want to learn how to grow more intentionally, for your emotional intelligence or something like that. Whatever it is, to be reading multiple books and reading multiple articles, listening to all these different things and watching videos all on that given topic. And so that's kind of what this is designed to do, is adapted from some of Mac Lake stuff of just saying, okay, what is my area of growth that I want to start in? Where am I starting? Where am I ending? And then what am I going to do? What can I read, listen to, watch, talk to? Who can I talk to? Who can I watch? All those different things. So this is a very loose structure that we would empower our pastors and mentors and say like, hey, give this to your leaders, and whatever they want to be able to grow in, this is a great tool for that. Going back a little bit farther, the online course is something that we've been utilizing for Nexus for a lot of our church planter training initially. But this platform called Thinkific is really wonderful to be able to offer a lot of these different things. So we're working on building out some of the content for this, and some of the books and resources, and just some videos from some of the trainings that we've hosted over the past. And so this is what some of the online portion is going to look like. So we're going to continue to build that out over the coming months as we're getting ready to launch what that looks like. And then lastly, just to share the Leadership Institute piece on our website. So a lot of information online, and I'll even share just a brief intro video. So we have a lot of just all of the content that I just shared, just talking about different people, like who is this for, like what church leaders can expect, all these different aspects of how it works, what the local level looks like, what the virtual cohort looks like, what the coursework looks like. So all these different aspects, and even more about all of the content that we're developing. But I want to just offer this specifically for church leaders, a quick video that just basically says what I said, but a little bit prettier, and so a little tighter.
Church leaders, have you ever found yourself needing or dreaming of creating a comprehensive leadership training center for your church? One that not only equips individuals with the skills they need, but also nurtures their spiritual growth and empowers them to lead within your community? Well, we have an exciting opportunity for you. Welcome to the Nexus Leadership Institute, an innovative initiative that allows churches like yours to harness the power of intentional collaborative leadership development. This 2-year program is perfect for emerging leaders in any ministry context, whether that's children's ministry, worship ministry, young adults, small group leaders, anyone that you see with the potential and willingness to grow. They're all invited. See, most churches don't have an intentional plan or pathway of developing their leaders. Even if we do, sometimes we just say, well, ours is more organic. And you all know that that's just a fancy way of saying we don't actually have one. We know that to do this well, staffing and time constraints, as well as having the emotional capacity to nurture emerging leaders, can seem overwhelming. That's where the Nexus Leadership Institute can come in. We want to have that philosophy around Home Depot style leadership where you can do it and we can help. We can do this together. Participants in the Nexus Leadership Institute will grow in 4 primary competencies through 3 dynamic environments. In year 1, we'll train them together in servant leadership and spiritual formation. In year 2, they'll get a crash course in theology through biblical foundations and practical disciple making. Each year, they'll be guided with an online course with carefully curated content. And they'll also join us once a month for a virtual cohort with other participants from all over the country to grow and learn together from dozens of experienced leaders. But most importantly, they will need you or a mentor from your church to invest in their journey at the local level. Your responsibility is to meet with each participant a minimum of twice a month to give them opportunities to lead and hold them accountable to their plans for growth. This provides an opportunity for individuals to develop within their desired context, putting their knowledge into practice immediately. Imagine your leaders stepping into their unique God-given callings, flourishing in their various leadership roles, and impacting the community around them. The Nexus Leadership Institute could be the catalyst for turning this vision into a reality, and it could be the missing puzzle piece to developing your leaders with purpose and passion. You know that you're called to equip the saints to do the work of ministry, but you don't have to do it alone. we're here to help. So let's partner together to craft a culture and create a legacy of leadership in your church.
So that was a quick video recap of everything that I just shared with you guys. And then this other video here is great for a promotional use video. If anybody wants to grab that and download it, they can use that in Sunday morning church if they wanted to, just to promote for anybody that might be interested in going through some of this journey together. So that's all I have to say about that. Phil, anything that you would add? Additionally, because we're going to talk a lot about leadership development within year one, but then also really dive in deep into a lot of, just things that Phil's really passionate about and learned a lot about in spiritual development and soul care and everything that looks like. So what you want to share a little bit more about that?
The way I'd come at it is there's a dragon we're trying to slay. There's a dragon we want to kill. And the problem is we start a church and we pour a lot of energy and time into a church plant. And then the thing that seems to be holding us back is the lack of leadership, because that leader is a great leader, but he has to, or she has to be able to pull other leaders around them and be able to develop the leadership that's there. And they don't really have a plan. They don't have a strategy, and they don't have a platform that's as readily available. And sometimes part of the strategy or the problem with the dragon is that they weren't necessarily trained in this type of environment themselves. They went to seminary and got trained in seminary, but we can't reproduce that environment in a local church. So how do we do it? Well, we actually equip the church planners to do this. So we're providing these 4 opportunities, 4 different topics. We're setting it up to where they have a mentoring relationship, but they know every month when they're meeting, like if you got somebody that's in this, every month they're going to be talking this month about spiritual formation or this month about servant leadership. They're going to be watching this video and reading, and we're going to give you some tools to just guide your conversation with them. So they're going to get some content, but then they're going to get you. And we're setting you up to be able to have this. As Andrew said, you can do it, but we can help you do it. And the worst thing that from my perspective is I watch these church planners and they come in a room and they'll say, I don't have any leaders. And I'm like, well, what are we doing practically to actually solve that problem? And usually they're waiting for somebody to leave Willow Creek or someplace else and move to their town and attend their church already developed. And that's wonderful when those people show up, but that's not how it's probably going to happen most of the time. So that's what we're doing. Yeah, my topic that I'm going to be focusing on is spiritual formation. And I had the advantage or just the privilege several years ago of going to Fuller, and I did my DMin on the topic of engaging church planting leaders in character transformation. And I basically was able to do that under Dallas Willard. So I basically have picked this book. It's, to me, one of the best books that I've ever found on the subject by Mulholland Jr. He's Robert Mulholland. He's a Wesleyan from Asbury, and he's got a very short little book, and it basically hits 4 basic topics of what is spiritual formation. How does your own personality fit into this? How do you form yourself, and how does your personality guide how you form other people? That'd be topic number 2. And then how do you engage the spiritual formations? And then the last section is how do you do it together? Because spiritual formation, according to his definition, which I love it, is being conformed to the image of Christ through the Holy Spirit's action, through everyday events, through what's going on in life. But ultimately, it's for the sake of others. And see, our churches attract people who have leadership skills, but they now have to be taught how to use those leadership skills that they've picked up at Citibank or wherever. They've got to figure out how to bring that into the kingdom context, where Andrew's going to be coming at it as being servant leaders. I'm going to come at it from a spiritual formation. The next year, we'll come at them with some specific tools to help them make disciples and to start grounding them. And I think at that point, we've set our leaders up into a rhythm to where they know how to help develop other leaders. That's the plan. And we're trying to do it without really any cost. I mean, $500 is not going to put any of us in a position to retire. But we're not doing it for that reason. We're doing it because we recognize a need within the Nexus family of church planners are busy. They've already got Monday through Sunday already full, and now they're trying to figure out, how do I add developing leaders to this? Well, what if we do some of that online? What if we get them into some curated, as Andrew said, some carefully chosen videos and things like that they can learn from? And we're just setting you as the church planner up to have a conversation with somebody who's already getting some filled. He's getting some information. He's already being taught.
Well, it's been a long time coming, a lot of different meetings and conversations, and super excited about, even potential like college partnerships and, just being able to make this a little even more official. But we'll see what God brings in that regard. But